Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Political Soup Podcast. I'm the host of the show, John Toll, and we have the excellent people beneath me who are going to be talking about the important issues of today. Danon and Nick and Paul are going to be with us, telling us their points of view on the article for today. Speaking of which, today's article was found by Paul, and it's on ABC News. We'll give you a link to it later. 45 patriotic millionaires call for Bush-era tax cuts to expire, is the name of the article. 45 people have signed a letter to President Obama asking him to allow the Bush-era tax cuts to expire at the end of this year. The president gets many letters like that, but what is unusual about this petition is who signed it, including the Grammy Award-nominated DJ Moby, as well as Jerry Cohen of the Ben & Jerry's ice cream fame. All the signatories happen to be millionaires, who stand to lose financially if they get their way. The Patriotic Millionaires for Fiscal Strength, which is what it's called, wrote a 155-word letter saying they hope their taxes will increase beginning in January. Its text is posted at fiscalstrength.com. It says, "For the fiscal health of our nation and the well-being of our fellow citizens, we ask that you allow tax cuts on incomes over 1 million to expire at the end of this year as scheduled. We make this request as loyal citizens who now or in the past earned an income of $1 million per year or more. The millionaires say they were not surreptitiously funded by a Labor Party, but that they organized of their own volition, which with some coordination by the political strategy group, the Agenda Project. This is not an orchestrated campaign," said Erica Payne, founder of the Agenda Project. Payne said that a few of the signatories with whom she's familiar contacted her and asked her for help in coordinating the millionaires. Payne said that the White House Representative Nancy Pelosi, Democrat from California, and Senator Harry Reid, Democrat from Nevada, among other elected officials, began receiving the letter last Monday and are aware of the petition. Senate Democrats announced Friday they will introduce a bill next month that will extend tax breaks for many individuals and businesses. If those tax cuts extend to the middle class, Payne, who said the Millionaires' Campaign is advocating for the economic health of the entire country, said that would be one win under the belt. Only 375,000 Americans have incomes over 1 million, said Payne. You're asking a small number of people to recognize that our country is in part responsible for their prosperity. When asked why he signed the petition instead of cutting a check to the cause of his choice, Princeton Review founder John Kautzman said, "No one wants to be the chump." Kautzman said another signatory and friend sent him the letter last week and asked him to sign it, to which he said it was obvious that he would sign. He said the pre-tax cut era was perfectly reasonable environment to do business, and he is especially disturbed by the deficit that is over $1 trillion. The notion that we're going to set up a system that, in effect, is a tax on our kids, and then look to random good-hearted people to step up and close that gap, is silly, said Kautzman. We need systematically to create a tax code that pays the bills. Now, there's a little bit more information in the article, but that's the gist of it. So I'm going to let you guys pick who gets to take the first shot. So whoever raises their hand first. Okay, so that works. So Danon, you're being pointed to, so you're up first.
See, I was looking for figures here, so I can hard numbers for you. Anybody else want to vamp for a minute?
All right, I'll take it.
Go ahead, Paul. Go ahead.
I'll take it. Well, I agree with them. They should pay more. If they want to pay more, they should pay more. They should write the check out today. I mean, nobody's stopping them. They can do it. It's perfectly legal to give the government more money. However, the thing they shouldn't do is they shouldn't compel other people to do that. I mean, the reality is that we have a couple of economic things that are at work here. The Laffer curve, which of course suggests that if you're taxed too much or if you tax too little, there's no income that's going to, no income will come into the government. And then of course the Hauser's law, which suggests that no matter how much you tax anyone, it will always be roughly 19.5% of GDP. And it stood pretty solid at that. Now, of course, it's lower right now, but we're in the middle of a recession, so that's to be expected.
I don't know though, Paul. I mean, he doesn't want to be a chump.
Hey, he doesn't have to be. He can, if he doesn't feel he's paying his fair share, he can certainly pay his fair share.
All right, Nick.
Yeah, I love that. Every time these millionaires or so forth chime in and say, well, I should be paying more. Do it. Show me one person who's voluntarily given more to the IRS than what they owe.
Actually,
You realize
paying
that's
more.
not how it works, though, right?
Go ahead, Nick.
What's that?
You do realize that's not how it works. We all pay withholdings, and then whatever your agreed upon tax is, you get a refund check. The government's not free to spend unspent refunds. It doesn't work that way. You either have a tax on that level or you don't.
Oh no,
So
but
the argument that you give the government more is a little bit spacious.
the law is clearly written. You can actually pay more. You have to specify that you're paying more, but you can actually pay more.
Yeah, he's right. It's kind of like a donation to the government, but that's not your point, though.
No, because of course that's a drop in the bucket. But if you were to tax all people over $1 million, you could actually raise some decent amount of revenue for the government. You have to attack your deficits one way or another. You either have to cut spending or you have to raise your revenues. And right now, the economics of the way it is, you're not getting growth of the economy at such a rate that you can't depend on the growth of the economy to fill that deficit. So you have to do one or the other. I happen to believe that we should have a higher tax burden.
Well, you're absolutely right. We have to do one or the other. However, let's keep in mind that confiscatory policies will actually shrink the economy. Higher taxes mean lower growth. It's the way it works.
Higher taxes in the 90s didn't seem to stunt the growth. I mean, we gave a tax break when we were running surpluses for change. And, the growth of the 90s was pretty well documented. It was a tremendous expansion of GDP, and we had tax rates that were a little bit higher than they are now. We're not talking about going to 70 or 80% tax rates like the Laffer curve shows at the very, very top where there's no government revenues. We're talking about finding the right equilibrium along the Laffer curve, which you could still raise taxes and see an expansion of government revenues.
That's not the point, though. The point is when you take money out of the free market, you're taking it out of the free market. You are contracting the free market.
Well,
When you pull it from the free market, they don't have that money anymore. They can't spend it.
the government has the money and the government spends the money, which goes right back into the market.
Exactly.
It goes right back into the market. People
Of course not. It does not go back into the market.
Just because somebody makes a profit doesn't mean it goes back into the market either. That's why people accumulate
not.
wealth.
Absolutely, it does.
Produce
No, it
anything.
doesn't.
Oh, hold on.
But are you suggesting that they take it and dig a hole in their backyard and they throw it in a hole? Because that doesn't happen.
But they accumulate wealth. It's not like the whole trickle down idea means that it's going to have to go to other people from the people that are the most wealthy. That doesn't happen. That's why income disparities continue to rise.
It does happen.
No, it doesn't.
It
If you
does
look at
happen.
we've had lower tax rates over the last 10 years,
Okay.
Income
and we see
disparity-
a greater disparity of income.
Okay, hold on. I want to hear Paul. Hold on a second. I want to hear what Danon had to say on this.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
When a corporation creates a good and sells it, they create wealth. In a free market, when any two parties exchange in an informed and freely made transaction, both parties leave wealthier. The government does not produce anything. They
That's true.
I'm sorry.
What's it
That's not true.
Okay, go.
What's it produce?
Well, maybe they have to get subsidies. Tell me how the government produce any degree of wealth
I'm sorry, but you do realize that the government takes your taxes and then puts it into the marketplace, right? So they create work projects that create roads. I'm sorry, that's producing something.
It's a
They're
pyramid.
hiring somebody else to do it, but they are producing something.
But you're talking about a socialized system. When you throw it into roads, you're not. It's not the same as actually producing a product. You're taking it and you're throwing it at a monopoly. Monopolies don't function properly.
Well, but that I find it interesting that you would argue that, since usually that's what happens in capitalist markets, right?
No, it's not.
Sure, it is. That's what
No.
that's exactly what a capitalist market is. That's the end-all equilibrium. That as you get more and more of a competitive advantage, you can
You
acquire your
misunderstand
competitors,
capitalism,
and
my
then you
friend.
get power of pricing.
You misunderstand capitalism.
No, I
This-
don't believe so. Go ahead,
Conversation.
Danny, I'm sorry. I'm talking over you.
No, that's a big conversation in and of itself, but that's a pretty fundamental disagreement there.
Well, I mean,
Uh,
that's kind of at the core of this whole concept is really what it is. So, I mean, I'm encouraging you guys to continue down this line. We've still got a few more minutes to kind of beat this one up a little bit.
Well, actually, to that end, if that's the evil of capitalism, why are you going to let the government do it? Because
I'm not calling-
that's what they do. That's all they do.
Please
All
understand,
okay.
I'm not calling capitalism evil. I get it. It is a great system of economics. It is not flawless, however. And so what we're sitting here talking and debating is whether or not you can have income disparities that grow with lower tax rates. And that to me is the piece of evidence that shows that trickle down economics doesn't work. You don't get more wealth going to the lower part of the population. More and more wealth accumulates higher. So the only way to do it is to redistribute it, and you distribute it through tax policy. And an effective government has an effective tax policy. And right now, our government's tax policy isn't very effective because it allows the incomes of those that are most wealthy to continue to grow while not supporting growth in lower areas.
Well, that's a problem with regulation. But you know, the reality is,
subsidize unproductivity. I mean, at what point are we no longer rewarding work and I won't say punishing the lazy, but at least allowing the lazy to suffer the consequences?
Yeah, but the difference between a 29% tax rate and a 35% tax rate on the wealthiest individuals in this, that's not punitive. That's not punishing people. It's not back to the 1940s when you had 80% tax rates on over $1 million, on income over $1 million. So I'm not trying to argue that there's an area of gray here, guys, and that there's somewhere in the middle that makes sense. And right now, there's too much benefit for the people that are the wealthiest. And, it's against. I just don't understand how the masses argue against their own economic interest, which is to tax the wealthy a little bit more than they are right now.
Well, that was
Go.
my comment was more a response to redistribution of wealth and specific tax policy, but I want to be sure I have time to get in a couple of numbers before we tell you if that's all right.
Yeah.
We have numbers for $10 million or more a year. In 2009, 8,274 people made $10 million a year or more. That's a total of $240 billion that would run the government for 24 days if you confiscated every single penny that they earned. And of course, if you did that, none of them would go back to work the next year. There's another 227,000 people who earned 1 million or more. So that makes a total of about, let's say 235,000 people who earn 1 million or more. And that still doesn't come anywhere close to covering the deficits. Deficits being 1.5 trillion.
I'm not saying it's a sole answer, but cutting taxes more isn't the answer. You have to raise the rates a bit.
no,
Cutting is allows more people to keep their own money and spend it at a higher income. More people are working, more payrolls, and more income comes.
All right,
Monstrous.
Dana, I'm gonna cut you off there. Paul, could you reiterate what Dana just said, because we have some audio difficulties here.
actually, I'm not sure what he just said. But I did have something that I wanted to mention. It's a fundamental flaw in the belief of both parties that you can cut taxes on the rich or that you can raise taxes on the rich. It just doesn't work that way. Because when you raise taxes on the rich, they pass that on. They pass that on to you, to me. They pass it on to everyone that they do business with. I mean, the market has a wonderful way of spreading out that tax.
Assuming supply and demand works, they can't always pass it on. I mean, yeah, it works for certain situations like cigarette companies, but that's not how pricing's determined, Paul, and I think you know that. The pricing and what they can pass on is only determined by what the market will bear, and that's why there's free market equilibriums that I'm totally in favor of. But
No,
I think I'm going to go
right.
I'll go back to the history of this all. If you go back to the 90s when we had some great growth, and I'm not saying it's a democratic thing, I'm just saying if you go back and look at the Clinton era, and you look at the GDP growth, and you look at the tax rates, history shows us that you can support growth in the economy at the GDP for that era with a tax rate that these millionaires are asking to revert to. That's all they're asking to. Is go back to a policy that we knew worked.
Let's go back to the regulation.
You know what else history shows? Can you guys understand me okay right now?
Yeah, you're good now.
History showed that when Bush cut taxes, revenues to the IRS increased.
Okay, Paul, go ahead.
I got to go back and look at that because we went from surpluses to deficits.
He spent more, but the reality is the tax receipts did increase,
All right, guys.
as they did with
I think
Reagan
it'll
when
take
he cut
to
taxes, and with Kennedy when he cut taxes.
I'm going to give each of you guys 30 seconds to do a closing statement, and then we're going to have to button this up. So, you know what? I'm gonna give it to Danon first, and then Nick, and then Paul. You're gonna finalize the whole deal. So, any final thoughts, Danon?
Yeah, I was gonna say we'll find a link for Bush tax cuts increasing revenue attached to the broadcaster. And what I tried to say before is basically when you allow more people to keep their own money, they spend it, or companies hire more people, you have more people employed and on the payroll, and you have more money going into the IRS. That's how the revenues increase. When the government takes it, they always take a slice off the top, and then it's just sent to political causes. It's blown on, and the $1 trillion surplus, shovel-ready jobs is just dust in the wind now. I mean, where did it all go? Compared to if you had left it in the economy and people spent it, and it, frankly, it trickled in.
All right, go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, I think the fallacy of all this is that the government takes a slice and holds on to it somewhere. The government spends every penny they get every year and then some. So that money goes somewhere, and it usually goes to either entitlements of some sort, in which case the people that are getting those entitlements can't hold on to that money and they spend it somewhere else, which goes back into the economy, or they're putting it into a public works job, which builds a road or something else, and that goes back into the economy, goes to private contractors, or it's going into the military, and in which case it's going to fund either GI's salaries for the year, or it's going back to companies that are building planes or missiles or guns or bullets. So it goes back into the economy. So this idea that we have the government taking these taxes and they're not going anywhere and not getting spent is a fallacy.
All right, good. And Paul, remember, only 30 seconds, man. Go.
Everything we do affects everyone else. Despite what we want to believe, every dollar we spend affects the rest of the economy. And, all I can say, I can close it out by saying, cut. And every place that you can possibly do it, cut.
All right then, guys. And thanks for watching us, everybody out there in internet land. Thanks again, guys, for your time, and we'll catch you on the flip side.